Although I married John, I've had a difficult relationship with his mother, Mary, and his son from his previous marriage, Brian. One day, through Brian, Mary invited me on a trip to Spain. Holding a faint hope that the trip might improve our relationship, I arrived on the day with some anticipation. Before boarding, after I had entrusted my wallet to Mary, she handed me a divorce form already filled out by John. A divorce paper? Why?
It's because you can't get along with Brian and me. John always complained about you.
He's sick of it.
Mary mocked my stunned expression and walked to the boarding gate with my wallet in hand. In disbelief, I stared at the divorce papers and my eyes widened. This handwriting is Brian's. A fierce anger welled up inside me.
I'll have fun with the real family. The fake mom can sleep outside.
To Brian's mocking, I responded with a forced smile. Sure. I've been holding back and enduring it because they are John's family, but no more. I'll make them regret trampling over my feelings. My name is Victoria, and I'm a 50-year-old housewife. While working as a florist, I used my flower coordination certification to take on decorating event venues and wedding reception halls. I divorced 10 years ago due to my husband's infidelity and thought I was done with marriage, but I met John, who runs an event company, 3 years ago and remarried after a year of dating. Unlike my former husband, John isn't great at small talk and struggles with social smiles, but he is sincere and serious. For me, who lost both my parents, he is a reassuring and important presence. I cherish these happy days, but there's one thing that bothers me. My stepson, Brian, still hasn't opened up to me. Of course, I've tried in my own way. As the person in charge of cooking, I was quick to learn about his food preferences, and I bought CDs of his favorite band to create common ground, even getting to know their songs well enough to sing them at karaoke. If a drama came up in conversation, I watched it too, and when I heard about an event with his favorite actor, I gifted him tickets. But it seems all my efforts have missed the mark.
Don't try to suck up to me too.
When I was told this, I was truly shocked. Suck up? I just want to get along. Then Brian grimaced deeply.
I don't plan on becoming family with you. Just leave me alone.
His dismissive tone pierced my heart like a knife. The tricky part is, Brian acts all nice to me when John is around. Thinking back to before we were married, when we went out together a few times, Brian would give me a friendly smile and chat. That's why I believed we could get along well after getting married. I was prepared that it would be difficult for Brian, who is already an adult, to call me mom, but he called me worse things when John wasn't around.
Hey, old lady. Restock the drinks in the fridge. And hey, where are my socks?
It seems he switches up the names depending on his mood.
When are you going to get the hang of our family's tastes? My late mom was a much better cook. Pretending to be a mom when you can't even cook properly is just annoying.
After being nagged so persistently, I couldn't take it anymore and asked him, Brian, if there are things I'm lacking, can you tell me? I'll try to improve. Then Brian twisted his lips into a sneer.
Figure it out yourself. You have a brain, don't you? It's because you're so stupid that you got cheated on.
And then Brian continued to taunt me as I remained silent.
You're just after Dad's money, aren't you? Dad should have chosen someone younger and prettier. I don't see what he sees in you.
Being criticized for my looks, I couldn't argue back. Though John was just an acquaintance from work and as charming as an actor, why he asked me out is still a mystery to me. Once, I overheard a conversation between Brian and his friend and found out that Brian had dropped out of college and was aimlessly drifting. Brian, I lent you $5,000 because you said it was for your training.
What? Did I say that?
You haven't told your dad that you dropped out of college, have you? You better tell him. Then Brian glared at me with disdain.
Shut up. A high school grad should just keep quiet. Listen, if you spill the beans to Dad, remember what will happen.
I wonder if Brian wants to discuss it himself? It's obvious that it would be better if Brian talks about it directly rather than me revealing it. After some deliberation, I decided not to tell John about Brian dropping out of college. I really wanted to discuss Brian's cold behavior towards me, but considering John works late every night, I didn't want to burden him with unnecessary worries, so I kept it to myself. After getting married, Brian teamed up with John's mother, Mary, who dislikes me. Mary, who lives just a 30-minute drive away, would drop by unexpectedly and criticize everything, saying the house wasn't clean enough or the meals were meager. One day, I came home from work and was surprised to find Mary cooking dinner in the kitchen. Glancing at the trash can, I saw the ingredients I had prepared that morning ruthlessly discarded. Mary brought the mac and cheese and soup to the table and began eating dinner facing Brian. Brian savored it with a delighted expression.
Grandma's mac and cheese really is the best.
Right.
Mary smiled broadly.
Victoria, why don't you learn to cook from Grandma? Then maybe you could make a decent meal.
Brian and John, poor things, having to eat lousy food every day, but leaving the care of John and Brian to just work. You really fail as a wife. John is too kind, letting you get away with it.
Oh my God, if Grandma's house were closer, I'd go there for dinner every night.
I can't understand the nerve of someone who throws away someone else's food ingredients and cheerfully badmouths others while eating dinner. Additionally, my job is part-time, not full-time, so I'm home by the evening. I handle the weekday household chores alone to support John, who is always busy. I really don't understand why Mary complains about me. Essentially, she probably doesn't like that I'm working.
I can't understand. Why did John remarry someone like her?
Was he deceived? He hasn't realized she's after his wealth.
Do you think so too? John is kind and stubborn. I suggested he marry a lady from a family suitable for a CO, but he chose his partner himself and wouldn't listen.
After complaining about me to Brian for over 2 hours, Mary left, only leaving John's portion of the dinner. Reluctantly, I was eating some ready-made dishes when Brian looked down at me with pity and smirked.
Grandma really hates you as usual.
It seems so.
Why don't you stop trying to charm Dad and make an effort to be liked by Mary?
How dare you say that after stirring things up yourself? I was astonished, but well, it's okay since Mary lives separately. The problem is Brian. Being confronted with such blatant hostility makes me feel we might never get along, which is depressing. That evening, since John was working overtime, Brian and I quietly had dinner together. After dinner, while I was cleaning up, Brian unusually started a conversation.
Hey.
What?
Grandma invited me to go on a trip to Spain. So, let's all go.
I was taken aback. Are you talking to me? It's okay for me to come along?
Yeah. Grandma said that maybe if we go on a trip, we could see different sides of each other and possibly get along better.
Brian continued, somewhat embarrassed. Mary is still actively working as the CEO of a family-owned group of companies. She is not living on a pension, but is still actively working, which probably explains why she has financial comfort. More than the invitation itself, I was pleased that Mary and Brian were showing a willingness to bridge the gap with me.
So, keep the third week of next month free.
Got it. I'll take some time off. That night, when John came home from work, he sounded disappointed as he spoke.
I've got a business trip to France that week.
Then maybe I should decline.
You should go ahead. I might be able to stop by Spain on my way back and at least have a meal together.
That's nice, but you've been quite busy. Are you getting enough rest? Expressing my concern, John smiled kindly.
I'm fine, thanks.
John knows that Mary dislikes me.
I'm surprised that Mom invited you on the trip. She's stubborn and can be harsh, but maybe she really wants to get along with you, Victoria. Normally, she wouldn't want to travel with someone she dislikes.
With that line, I made up my mind. Let's get along with Mary and Brian in Spain. Hopefully, our past tensions will turn into laughable stories as we close the distance between us. On the day of our trip to Spain, Brian and I went to the airport with John. After seeing John off on his direct flight to Charles de Gaulle Airport, we waited in the lobby for a while until Mary appeared, pulling her suitcase. When I thanked her for inviting us on the trip, Mary smiled brightly.
Victoria, why don't you give me your wallet to keep it safe? You might lose it.
What?
You won't need it. I'll handle all the shopping in Spain. Look, Brian too.
Okay.
Brian handed his wallet to Mary, so I reluctantly took out my long wallet and entrusted it to her. Mary opened my wallet and nodded with satisfaction.
As expected, you brought credit cards and cash. Tourists are easy targets for pickpockets.
It seems so. Thank you. After putting my wallet in her bag, Mary exchanged a sly look with Brian. I felt a sense of unease seeing their expressions.
Also, this. John asked me to give this to you. Can you open it here?
As I opened the envelope Mary handed to me, I felt bewildered. The moment I took out the contents, I felt like my breath stopped. A divorce paper? Why? Mary's face lit up with a triumphant smile.
It's because you can't get along with Brian and me. John always complained about you.
I heard it too. He's sick of being around you.
I felt like collapsing to my knees.
So, you're no longer needed. Goodbye.
Wait, my wallet. Ignoring my plea as if she couldn't hear me, Mary quickly walked away, pulling her suitcase. I can't believe it. The kind and sincere John was talking behind my back with Mary and Brian. As I stared at the filled-out divorce form, my eyes suddenly widened. This handwriting is Brian's. It resembles John's, but has its unique quirks. My feeling of devastation suddenly turned into fierce anger. I was a fool to trust these two. I was so eager to get along through this trip.
Too bad, you poor thing. This might be your last chance ever for an international trip.
With a snide smile, Brian blurted out,
I'll have fun with the real family. The fake mom can sleep outside.
To Brian's mocking, I responded with a forced smile. Sure. I glared at Brian's back until he disappeared into the crowd. I've been holding back and enduring it because they are John's family, but no more. I'll make them regret trampling over my feelings. Although left penniless at the airport, I had no intention of succumbing to Mary and Brian's harassment. I used the transit app on my cell phone to catch a train and calmly made my way home. Brian used to bike to college, and Mary only uses her phone for messages and calls, so they must have forgotten about this. Once home and my anger slightly subdued, I made a call to someone. Afterward, I sat blankly on the sofa for a while. It's unfortunate I couldn't go on the trip to Spain, but if I really want to, I can go anytime. Besides, it wouldn't have been fun with such spiteful people anyway. I comforted myself and spent the day relaxing, reading books, and watching dramas online. Thinking about it, this was the first time since getting married that I've been alone. Usually, even if John is away on business, Brian is around, and Mary makes unexpected visits, so someone is always at home. Though the trip fell through, having a week to myself without having to see Brian or Mary feels like a luxurious vacation in its own right. The next day, after finishing my chores early, I went out to watch a movie and enjoyed some shopping at the mall on my way back. In the afternoon, while I was drinking coffee and watching TV at home, my phone suddenly rang. I had a feeling it would be soon. Annoyed at picking it up right away, I ignored it for a while, but the message tones kept sounding one after another. Reluctantly answering, I was yelled at by Brian.
Old lady, get to Spain now.
What? Don't be ridiculous.
Is that the TV? Are you at home? How can you get back if Grandma stole your wallet and cards?
I have a transit app installed on my phone. It has my credit card too, so honestly, I'm not really struggling.
Gosh, whatever. Just get over here.
What happened? When I asked, Brian said roughly.
I made reservations at a 3-star restaurant at the hotel, but they won't let us in.
Really? Why is that? I asked him deliberately.
That damn owner said, if Victoria isn't accompanying you, we must decline your patronage.
So, you missed out on the filet mignon steak? That's too bad. The view from the 36th floor is spectacular, and the meat is tender and delicious, I said to Brian, laughing as he raged on. Brian seemed unable to contain his anger.
Even when we tried going to other stores in the hotel, the clerks turned us away at the door. The hotel staff were whispering in Spanish, and it was incredibly uncomfortable. So, we ended up just going to a supermarket outside and had juice and snacks for dinner.
There's a supermarket outside the hotel, right?
You know it well.
Brian muttered suspiciously, then quickly flared up again.
Damn it. Why do I have to eat this kind of food after coming all the way to Spain? Grandma got so angry, her blood pressure soared and she had to lie down. It's all your fault.
Sorry about that. It made no sense why it would be my fault, but to avoid further hassle, I apologized.
Since it's your fault, you should compensate us for the hotel and meals. It's only fair since you made us feel bad.
I laughed in disbelief. Sure.
Really? Yes.
But only if you return the $5,000 you borrowed from me. Please do that before I file the divorce papers. Oh, looks like even if I add the hotel and meal expenses, there'll be some change left over. Brian suddenly fell silent. No doubt, he intended to default on his debt to me amidst the divorce confusion. Of course, I have no intention of divorcing at all. After a brief silence, Brian spat out with venom.
Just give me the $5,000 as a gift. You are so stingy. This is why poor people stay poor.
He was ranting as much as he wanted. At this point, I was almost amused beyond being angry. Then, I heard Mary's voice from behind Brian.
Brian, are you talking to Victoria?
Yes, Grandma. If you have something to say to her, better say it before the divorce. We won't be seeing her much longer.
Let me have the phone. Victoria, was your maiden name Smith?
Mary asked with a tense voice. Yes, that's right. I had been expecting this question.
So, are you perhaps the daughter of the Smith group?
Yes, my brother took over, so it's strange to call me the daughter now. There was a shriek from the other end of the line. It seemed like Mary almost fainted, and I could hear Brian panicking.
Grandma, what's wrong? If you're feeling ill, you should rest.
No, I'm fine. So that's why we got reservations at the popular restaurant so easily.
Mary muttered in shock.
The Smith Group, that's the chain known for catering to celebrities, right? It's very popular even overseas.
After a pause, Brian yelled.
What? Victoria is a Smith Group's daughter.
Seems so.
What? I didn't know that. Were you hiding it? What a nasty character.
I responded coolly to Brian's rants. That's strange. I mentioned it during the pre-marriage introduction. John definitely knows.
Really, did you? I've been so forgetful lately.
They probably never paid proper attention to what I said. I added, my father was the president of Smith before he passed away. I inherited his estate, so I have never been in need of money. I didn't marry John for his money.
Oh, really? Then why do you even work at a flower shop? You could live on John's earnings alone. A wife should quit her jobs and devote herself to her husband and children.
That's right. Well, then I'll take the $5,000 after all. I should have asked for more money from someone rich like you. I missed a chance.
Despite being shocked to learn about my background, Mary and Brian quickly recovered and reverted to their usual tones, showering me with snide remarks. I will be asking for the money I lent to Brian back. That's a separate matter, right?
You haven't filed the divorce papers, have you?
Well, not yet.
Then, invest $1 million in our company.
I was speechless. What?
A wife should be able to do that much. It's pocket change for you.
I can't do that. Even if I had the money, I wouldn't give it. Mary, whining to get her way, then snapped at me harshly when I firmly refused.
What a stingy woman. Don't you want to be useful at all? Poor John. It's sad he married someone like you.
Mary began to rant nonsensically.
Fine. When John arrives in Spain tonight, I'll fill his ears with all sorts of bad things about you. It would be good for you to be despised and hated by kind John and get a divorce.
I'll make up some stories too. If I say you bullied me, Simple Dad will probably believe it.
Brian added gleefully to Mary.
If you won't give us the money, we don't need a presumptuous wife like you. I'll tell John you wrote the divorce papers yourself. A serious guy like him gets scary when he's mad. I'm looking forward to tonight.
No need to wait until tonight. I've been listening right here.
John then spoke over the phone, and the two were silenced.
What, John? Weren't you supposed to join us after your business trip? Why are you back in the US?
You said you were working until yesterday and would arrive in Spain tonight.
In response to Mary and Brian's panic, John answered,
I was surprised when Victoria sent me the image of the divorce papers, so I called back immediately. I was skeptical after hearing about it, so I hurried to finish my work and flew back to listen to the conversation between Victoria, Mom, and Brian.
What? Dad, you're misunderstanding something. Grandma and I were the ones being mistreated by Victoria.
John dismissed Brian's calmer tone outright.
It's too late for excuses. I've been listening to the conversation on speaker the whole time. Who's really the terrible one here?
Gosh, it's Victoria's fault for provoking us. What? We even prepared the divorce papers out of kindness.
Wait, by the way, you two are returning tomorrow, right? I've informed the police.
Police? Why? We haven't done anything wrong.
The divorce papers, Brian, you filled out John's section, right? That's forgery of a sealed private document. You'll be arrested for that. Startled by my statement, the two began accusing each other over the phone.
Hey, Grandma. I wouldn't have done it if I knew I'd be arrested. What are you going to do about this?
What? I have nothing to do with this. It was Brian who planned and executed this mean trick on Victoria.
What? Don't mess with me.
Brian yelled at Mary over the phone.
The conversation isn't over yet. Mom, Brian quit college on his own and was spending a lot at nightclubs. And you not only turned a blind eye, but also gave him pocket money, right?
Yes, that's right. What's wrong with giving my dear grandson Brian some money?
That's right. That's right.
Brian chimed in as Mary brazenly admitted it. John then coldly stated,
It's fine to give pocket money, but it's a serious crime if you embezzled funds from the company.
What? That's bad.
Brian seemed to pale over the phone.
Look, I'm just a figurehead president. The salary isn't much.
Give me a break. If you do that, I might lose my chance to take over Dad's company, right?
Brian lamented, to which John declared.
That's off the table. I'm going independent.
After a pause, Brian exclaimed,
Hey, that's not what we agreed on. You said I'd take over after I graduated.
Who was it that dropped out after just 1 year?
Damn it. All right, I'll enroll in another school and really study this time. So keep your promise and let me take over the business.
Do you really think I'd entrust my company to someone who spews abuse at Victoria?
Looking at John's profile filled with anger, I felt a warmth in my chest. John was the only one on my side. It felt like all the days I endured their verbal abuse were finally being rewarded.
I'm going to start a new company and cut ties with you too.
Mary's scream could be heard over the phone. Seizing the phone from Brian, Mary ranted quickly.
John, you're joking, right? Are you really going to value Victoria over your own mother and son? That's absurd. You'll regret this. Please reconsider.
If I consider how you and Brian have treated Victoria, it seems only fair. You two don't care about me. You're just dazzled by the profits I could generate.
John spoke sternly to Mary.
Victoria, who isn't even blood related but cares for me, means much more to me than such a family.
Wait, don't hang up. I'll make sure Brian pays back the money he owes Victoria. Just don't abandon me.
John hung up in the middle of the conversation and immediately blocked Mary's phone number and messages.
Victoria, ignore any messages from those two.
Well, yeah. Are we really cutting ties? As I asked anxiously, John affirmed with conviction.
It's okay. Like I told Mom earlier, I have no intention of getting along with Brian or her after how they've treated you. I'm sorry for making you endure all this. I was too wrapped up in work, making it hard for you to talk to me, right?
No, it's okay. From now on, I'll support you even in the parts Mary and Brian were supposed to. Then, John smiled gently at me. After returning to the States, Mary and Brian planned to stay in a hotel for a while to evade the police. However, John informed the police about their favorite hotel, and they were quickly arrested. This time, since I hadn't submitted the forged documents to the authorities, the charges were only attempted forgery of a sealed document, and being their first offense, they were just sternly warned and sent home. However, the news of their arrest spread in the neighborhood, and Mary, who cares deeply about public perception, became too embarrassed to go outside. Moreover, because she embezzled company funds, she was removed from her position as chairperson during the trip and is now unemployed. When relatives visited Mary's house, they found her confined in a dim room, wearing filthy pajamas, which is a far cry from her fashionable past. Brian, having been kicked out of the house, was also discovered to have borrowed money not only from Mary, but from several relatives to fund his nightlife. With the relatives now aware that John had cut ties with them, and fearing being defrauded, they demanded immediate repayment from Brian. To prevent him from escaping, one relative allowed him to live at their house and made him work doing odd jobs at their business. They withhold his salary to ensure his debts are paid, as he would likely spend it otherwise. Now unable to visit his favorite nightclubs and under constant surveillance by his relatives, Brian is in a prickly situation. At work, he is bossed around by employees younger than him. Meanwhile, John, as he declared, started his own company with a few trusted colleagues. I continue to work at the flower shop and occasionally use my flower arrangement skills for decorating venues. At one point, my reputation for good taste led to being invited to decorate venues for John's business partners. It makes me incredibly happy to think that my work contributes to enhancing the image of John's company. Going forward, I look forward to supporting John and continuing my work with pride, side by side.